Yeah, this is boy Blizzy coming in hard and off the car. Coming with that flow, straight from the barrio. And coming with that heat from the street. Now we see Fanie Wills is up on the Grizzly in her Slizzly. So now we're going to take a look at what's going on, because as you can see, it says it right there. It's about to go down. Fulton County, Fanie Wills got some very bad news. So let's see what that news is about. You know what I'm saying?
And things are heating up, ladies and gentlemen. Heating up in a good way. Like, share, comment, hit that subscribe button if you are new. If you would like to help me out even further with this YouTube algorithm too, watch this video to the very end.
Doc Rich.
Shout out tremendously. Shout out to Dr. Steve Turley on this clip. Make sure you guys want to show him some love and support. And let's dive in.
This is an emergency right now. I'm calling for an emergency special session. I've had senators ask me, what do you do when you have an emergency special session? First step, Steve, defund Fanie Willis. Now, these senators, they want to use semantics with their constituents, and they want to say, well, she receives local funding or she receives federal funding. Well, she also receives Georgia state tax dollars, Steve, and my constituents do not want their hard-earned tax dollars funding this type of rogue power. Okay, the second thing we have to do is we have to investigate Fanie Willis. They say, well, what would you investigate? What about the fact that the indictment comes out the day before the jury even finishes and concludes, right? We need to investigate what coordination she's had with the...
I don't think it was actually the day before, but it was before the jury had concluded. I think it was like earlier in the day where it got. It might have been the day before, but if I remember correctly, it was, you know, earlier in the day. Like, it came out like in the morning when they hadn't even finished and didn't finish until later in the afternoon, which is just insane. Was wow. It initially came out and said, "Oh, we were just doing a practice run." If I remember their words correctly, we were just doing a practice run. Really?
U.S. Department of Justice. There are so many things to investigate. What about the fact that half of her inmates...
I'm going to show you something. Sir.
Hold on a second here. We don't want to hear all of that garbage. You know what I'm saying?
When the citizens of Fulton County have to start paying in Northwest Georgia and across this state, they're going to think twice about what she's doing, because instead of their neighbor getting murdered and their other neighbor getting robbed, and all she's worried about is taking on political prisoners, you know, maybe she'll stop and think about that.
A growing groundswell of opposition is rising up against the corrupt Fulton County DA Fanie Willis, and it's just getting started. That was Georgia State Senator Colton Moore, who's leading the effort to impeach Willis of the ridiculous weaponized legal witch hunt against President Trump. A witch hunt that's only in the end making Trump stronger than ever, especially among black men, which we'll be covering in a later video. Now being widely reported that House Republicans are indeed launching an official probe into the shenanigans of the Fulton County DA's office. The House Judiciary Committee is investigating whether federal law enforcement agencies or officials were involved in Fanie Willis's investigation and indictment. Her office was notified of the investigation and what she's required to turn over. Quote, the committee is demanding the DA's office turn over all documentation of its use of federal funds, communications with the DOJ or its components, and any records of cooperation with officials of the executive branch. Here's House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan on what they're investigating.
3 questions, Sean. Did you coordinate with the Biden administration, the same administration who's indicted their general election opponent in D.C. and Miami already? Did you coordinate with them? Did you work with Jack Smith? Look at the same witnesses. What did any coordination there? And did you use federal funds as part of this investigation? We asked these same questions of Alvin Bragg a few months ago, and he in fact did use American tax dollars to go after President Trump in Manhattan. And oh, by the way, Alvin Alvin Bragg sued us and we subpoenaed one of those prosecutors up there in Manhattan. He sued us. We went to court, and the court ruled for us. So we're going to be just as aggressive here. We're going to do it within the Constitution, but we are going to do our duty to get the answers the American people deserve for this ridiculous indictment that's taken place in Georgia.
Yeah, so thus far, Willis has refused to answer questions as to whether she had been in touch with Jack Smith, the special counsel that's brought two indictments against Trump. And former Speaker of the House Newt Gingrich is saying that word on the street is that this Fulton County indictment was actually ordered by the deep state in D.C.
That I am told, this is hearsay, but I am told by a reliable source, that Friday evening somebody from Washington called the district attorney in Atlanta and said, you have to indict on Monday. We have to cover up all of the mistakes we just made with Weiss. And she said, apparently, my jurors aren't coming back till Tuesday. And they said, you didn't hear me. You have to indict on Monday. And she said, well, they're not going to get here before noon. They said, it doesn't matter. She said, this means it's going to be 8 or 9 or 10 o'clock at night. They said, it doesn't matter. We need the news media shifting.
Who made that phone call?
We don't know. And I'm telling you up front, this is hearsay, but it's from a person who has remarkably good sources.
I totally believe it, though, because that would explain why they leaked and they messed up on the clerk document, why she was exhausted, and why they had the 11 p.m. press conference, Mr. Speaker.
So there appears to be coordination between the deep state in D.C. and the Fulton County DA to deliberately cover up the corruption behind the David Weiss fiasco. Remember, Merrick Garland, who is objectively speaking an abject disaster of an attorney general, he appointed David Weiss as a special counsel to investigate Hunter Biden, even though Weiss is the very one who gave Hunter that sweetheart special plea deal designed specifically to cover up Joe Biden's criminality. So as you would expect, the appointment was a public relations disaster. A recent ABC poll found that only 30% of voters expresses any semblance of trust in the integrity and independence of the investigation. The vast majority are just laughing at it, so blatant. So it was a disaster, and according to Gingrich, they needed a diversion to take attention away from the corruption that's infested itself in the highest levels of our federal government. So now we got this probe into the Fulton County DA's office being launched by a Congressional Oversight Committee, and we got Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs introducing a bill to defund Fanie Willis. It's a bill that's actually called the Willis Act. Have you heard about this? It stands for Withholding Investments from Lawless Litigators in States Act. It's absolutely brilliant. At the same time, as we saw earlier, we got Georgia State Senator Colton Moore calling for a special legislative session to investigate whether this political indictment was politically motivated.
Hello, everyone. It's Senator Colton Moore coming to you from the Fulton County Jail. Today, Donald Trump, who have been taken political prisoner, are going to be put in this jail. The 200,000 people that I represent who sweat hard every day for their tax dollars, they don't want their tax dollars funding this corrupt district attorney, Fanie Willis. We as a legislature, me as a senator, we have a job to do. We have a constitutional duty to provide oversight against executive and judicial officers. And that's why I'm demanding that we call a special session today. Defund Fanie Willis of any Georgia tax money and start the investigation into her. Contact your state representative, contact your state senator, demand a special session. We've got work to do, we've got a country to save.
Now, obviously, Moore is not alone in this call. Republican congressional candidate Anthony Sabatini originally tweeted out, the Georgia legislature must call special session tomorrow. And
Hey, listen. If you live in Georgia, you know what to do. Pick up that phone, start making some calls. Every single day. Every single day. And I get we all got busy lives, but 5 minutes of your time a day, in the grand scheme of things, isn't really a whole lot. 5 minutes. 5 minutes isn't much, okay? So, and listen, even in other states, start making some calls. You live in New York. You live in Florida, right? I mean, because in this is the thing. I think the right and Republicans always have the mentality of, no, we're going to turn the other cheek. No, it's okay, whatever. You see the left getting wild and ratchet and crazy and yelling and screaming. And I ain't saying we got to go to that point, because I don't agree with that. But we can voice our concerns. We can make sure our voices are heard. And the way we do that, pick up that phone and we call every single day. Every single day. Because, you know, the left gets their way. We see what they do. I'm just saying. Like I said, you don't go to the extent that they go to, because them hounds are wild over there. But make sure our voices are heard. Make sure our voices are heard. Pick up that phone and start making some calls. I'm going to my darn self after this video, for sure, every single day.
Immediately subpoena Fulton County District Attorney Fanie Willis tomorrow. In the meantime, freeze all funds to her office. Any Republican, especially in Georgia, not calling for this must be eliminated from office. The problem here, of course, as he's alluding to, is that Georgia's Republican-dominated legislature is also governed at the top by the feckless establishment rhino Brian Kemp, the governor of Georgia, who's refusing to call a special session. And you also have Georgia Attorney General Chris Carr, again a Republican, who's refusing to step in and get involved.
Also, that's another thing. Any and all of these Republicans that are sitting on their hands, I don't care if they have an R next to their name anymore. You let them know how you feel about them. Let them know. Don't get violent. Be peaceful, of course. As always, be peaceful. We don't have to stoop as low as the left does. But you make sure your voice is heard. When these people are up for election again, you make sure they know they can kick rocks. You can kick rocks.
That's right.
Goodbye. I don't care if you have an R next to your name.
That's right.
Try that. Been there, done that. You got an R next to your name and you sat on your darn hands.
Mm-hmm.
Go sit on your darn hands at home if that's what you want to do. But you're not about to be in office doing absolutely nothing, sitting pretty just because you have an R next to your name. Absolutely the F not. No.
That's right.
No.
That's right.
That period for, that type of Republicans is over. It's done.
Yep.
It's a new breed of Republicans in this country.
Yep.
It's a new breed. Trump, honestly, has ushered in a new breed. We want action. We about that, in the words of Marshawn Lynch, we about that action, boss. We about action. We don't want to see people sitting on their hands. Oh, no, we can't do that. No, get some stuff done. You want to sit on your butt? Go home. Go home. That's all I'm saying, right? And really, honestly, I think after this next election, you will see a completely different Republican type in this country. Republicans who are about action. Republicans, even just a different, your stereotypical Republicans won't be the case anymore. You'll see people that you won't even expect to be Republicans are actually Republican. You're Republican? Oh, you know what I mean? I think this whole thing is completely shifting because they have gone too far. Y'all remember the saying, I didn't leave the left, the left left me? I think there's a lot of people in this country that feel that way. And it's going to be on full display come 2025 and 2024. Let's jump back in.
In the motion that was filed to remove the case from state court to federal court, even though Georgia state law requires the Attorney General to be involved in any state criminal case that could be removed to federal court. So we talked about this on Friday's live stream. A Republican Attorney General in Georgia could shut this circus down this very second, but he refuses to do so. And it's all because these feckless rhino establishment hacks are all in on it. They want Trump indicted. They want Trump taken out. So this is going to require the people rising up against their feckless rhino establishment and holding their feet to the fire. And that's what we all have to do. We all have to stand up and make sure those who claim to represent us shut the circuits down for good, hold these reckless lawfare practitioners accountable.
Absolutely. We need to make sure that they are held to the fire. Call them up, let them up. Hey, if you don't start doing something, you're not going to be in office anymore. Hey, if I got to run for office to make sure that something gets done, I mean, so be it, right? So be it.
Right.
This stuff is getting out of